This week's homily is a little bit of a continuation from last week's homily. Try to give you a brief overview of last week. Last week we had the gospel of the treasure buried in a field and then going and selling everything just to get that field, or the pearl of great price, selling everything to get that pearl of great price. Then I used the imagery of my parents' love story. My dad had this dream of going to flight school, and he had all this money saved up so that he could start taking lessons. And he took all that money that he had saved up to take those flight lessons, and he bought an engagement ring. It changed his life to meet my mother. A love story does that. When we are involved in a love story, it should change our life. What will separate us from the love of Christ? Is the question that Paul asks today in his letter to the Romans. What will separate us? Christ loves us. Will there be anything that will separate us from that love? Will anguish, distress, persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or the sword? And Paul says, no, none of that. And then he says that he's very convinced, that neither death nor life, nor anything, no creature will be able to separate us from the love of Christ. Christ loves us. There's nothing you can do to change that. He doesn't like our sins, but he still loves us. He wants us, he loves us so much that he wants us to return to him and to change our life. So wonderful when we realize that this is a love story. That we are the ones who are loved. That we are the ones being pursued. God the Father is the lover, and we are the beloved. Should that not change our lives? Our perspectives? What we truly desire? Do we look for treasure here on earth, or do we look for treasure up in heaven? That kind of change in our life. This God is a God who loves us, and that love will not be separated, that cannot be broken. What is it? How does he show us that love? My father bought an engagement ring to show his love, his perseverance. I'm going to love you for the rest of your life. God so loved the world, he sent his only Son. He sent us Jesus. But not just that. He's a God who provides. And also, I can show it in the Old Testament as well, but first, let's look at how he provides here in this gospel reading today. A God who loves us, Jesus who loves us so much, who sees, who disembarks, and then looks out into the crowd, and his heart is moved with pity. The crowd looks at him with desire in their face. We want something. We don't know what it is, but we definitely want something. We desire you. And then he starts to cure the sick. And they're thinking, that's what we want. There it is. It's like, but wait, I have more. His apostles come to him and say, this is a deserted place. There's no food. There's nothing. These people are going to go hungry. They're not going to be able to make it back to their homes because they're so hungry. Jesus says, feed them yourself. We don't have any. We got 5 loaves of bread. We're not going to feed these thousands and thousands of people. Feed them yourself. So Jesus says, bring all those loaves and fish to me. Now the very interesting thing here is that he's going to multiply these loaves and this fish. And this miracle is in all 4 Gospels. This is the only miracle that's in all 4 Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John talk about the multiplication of loaves, talk about the feeding of the thousands. So there's something important here. He says a prayer. He looks up to heaven, says a prayer, and then gives the bread to his apostles, and they start distributing it. And then when everyone's had their fill, they're full, they've had a nice meal together, they gather up everything that's left over. And they started with 5 loaves, and now they have 12 baskets of bread. A God who loves us is a God who provides for us, who provides nourishment for us, who provides food for the journey. This is the glory of a loving God. This is the glory of the sacraments. This is his bond to us. Look, I love you. Here, let me show you 7 different ways. If you are thirsty for this indwelling of a spring, watering up within you, a spring filled with God's love, here it is. The prophet Isaiah says, all you who are thirsty, come to the water. Come and eat. Come without pain. Come. Come to the altar. Receive the love that the Father invites you to. As you come up to receive the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ this day, loving God inviting you to be one with him. God so loves us that we are his beloved children.